Thank you very much, Rajan. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
No, thanks for having me.
Cheers. Perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How long was that? Was that 2 hours?
Yes, 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Shoot, look at that.
4 now. What were your thoughts?
That was awesome. It's one of those, we were talking about sinking into things. When you get fully engaged, you kind of forget everything else that's happening in the world. And that was, it was a moment about halfway through, I'm like, man, I'm just really enjoying this.
Thank you.
And Anna said I would. Like when I first got the email, I sort of half looked at it and didn't really pay attention to it. And I was like, no, you need to do this. I think you're going to really vibe with it. But no, it was awesome.
Thank you very much. That means a lot.
No, it was really cool. I think, I hope you do lots more of these. And I mean, have you got other people lined up? And
yeah, so we've got the 2-week break, mid-semester break.
Yes.
So this week is week 6.
Yes.
And then just afterwards. And I'll try to get some university staff that I've always wanted to speak to.
Yes.
I think this is the prime time to get them because they're not as busy with courses. And then I can start to talk to some more professional guests later on. But if I was to tell you about like the intention of the project, to be honest, it's quite selfish. It's being able to speak to the people that I've always wanted to be able to speak to, but wouldn't have had the opportunity to do so otherwise. And yeah, it's been very interesting so far. Yeah, and very engaging.
Yeah, well, I think the format does that. And it forces you to be present. It forces you to pay attention.
Yeah.
I think what's really cool too is like it's a bit like creating the buzz around you through doing just stuff for you. Like it's a weird kind of paradox going on because like you could have a real passion for podcasts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's great. But then also this could just be like on the other end of the spectrum, it could be this is just a way for you to get a job somewhere. But regardless of where you sit or whether it's a little bit of both or everything in between, like this is the sort of thing that actually has genuine wider value. Right? And as you get better and better at it and you get more exposure and you've got more listeners and followers and all sorts of stuff, this is the kind of thing, if it gets any legs, like it'd be great if you're still doing this in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
And even if it's like a once a month or once a quarter or whatever, because it just helps to like, there's a growth thing that goes on and people will see this and then see that later and all those things and then they get and follow the journey. And what's really cool about this is that there's a generation between you and I who I think have just missed out on a bunch of really core communication skills. Through that lockdown, being removed from each other, introduction of phones into our lives, all that sort of stuff, which has just made it harder, I think, in terms of training to be good at presenting yourself or presenting yourself accurately, good at engaging with clients, and potentially being like a future business person that can take over my spot, right? Mm-hmm. But by doing this kind of thing, you're kind of putting the foot to the ground on it because you're creating like this, you're building up your own skills, your own awareness, your own ability to do this. Like I can imagine right now putting you in front of a client and you would say the right things. And that's just, you only get better at that.
Thank you.
And that's a really cool thing. And then on top of that, I can imagine you going into like when you've got a little bit of profile, going into like an NZIA conference and people stopping you to have a chat. Mm-hmm. And that's so powerful. I've only had that happen to me twice in 2 specific scenarios, and it's just the connections you make. One was that I got pulled in to do a presentation at the fire engineering conference one year, and because we had S&T had building services as well.
Yeah.
And I did the talk. It's like 5 things that fire engineers need to know about architects, and it was in my own like tongue-in-cheek style of very few bullet points and stuff. But then I couldn't get out of the building. It was so awesome. And then the next day I had all these LinkedIn requests. And then I've run into guys from that who have remembered me and said like the most incredible things. And I haven't worked with them. I've just stood there for like 45 minutes and talked about random stuff. And honestly, it's the most amazing feeling when people make you feel that way.
Yeah.
And I think you're on the journey of putting yourself in the position to feel that way.
Thank you.
And then you have the chance to do the influence thing as well, where you can start to say, well, here are my values and here's how I want the world to change. Yep. And then actually make those things happen. And the sooner you can start, the sooner that starts to actually, you get to see the things happening.
Yeah. Well, I think you're getting at the crux of it. I went to 76 Small Rooms, their live podcast recording session at Object Space a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And to be honest, just the environment that they had doing the podcast that they have for the last 10 years, that just seemed like something that was very valuable to me. You know, architecture is, I think real estate is quite a broad subject, but architecture is quite niche, at least in terms of the people that are interested in it.
Yeah.
And it's a niche that I enjoy and that I find some real value from. So just speaking to people who are really good at it and who really know what they're talking about is, at least at this stage in life, something that I find very rewarding. Yeah, and I guess to some extent that's the environment that I want to create.
Yeah.
Or hopefully the feeling that I want to have in the future, which is, hey, I'm still the professional stupid person in the room, and
Yes.
I'm still learning, but I'm so privileged that I get to be able to ask these questions to people.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just wondering.
I feel the same way. Like sometimes you end up in these situations where you walk away and you're like, how did I get into this position to talk to this person about this thing?
Yeah.
A few months ago, I was in a meeting with, and I'm not shy about saying I'm a left-leaning person, progressive in every sense of the word. I ended up in a meeting with the National Party president. And I left that meeting being like, how the heck did I get into this meeting? But it was like a really constructive meeting, and we talked through a bunch of different things about a specific project and represented my client really well.
You're having a human-to-human connection, and in that sense, you're not having a political discussion.
That's right.
Really.
That's the thing. And you kind of recognize, again, you're dealing with people.
Yeah.
And people want to hear people things, human-centric things. And so those are not skills that you can just magic out of a hat. You've got to be able to do that on the fly, and that comes from practice.
Yeah, can I ask you a question about what you mentioned earlier, which was the talk in the fire engineering space? What do you think about that talk resonated so well with people and made you connect with them?
I think it was because I went to I was early, and because I had to do setup and stuff around mics and that kind of thing, I had to sit through the previous presentation, and it was just what you expect. Like it was like any CPD thing, which you'll get into later on, I'm sure. But it's like bullet points and people reading off slides. And so for me, like nothing turns me off more than sitting there and like I'm at the bottom of the slide and the person's still talking about the first bullet point.
Yeah.
And I'm in my head, I'm like, you're here. Yeah. Give me something different to the bullet points.
Don't be a teleprompter.
Correct. Yeah. I can read for myself, you know. Yeah. And which was really cool because my presentation straight after it, I think I had like 30 slides, and I must have had like 30 words in total because I was real big on put a picture up. And so I think the first picture I had was a toy fire truck. And I think the first point was all around, I told in stories. So I told the story about this school that wanted to keep their swimming pool, and we were desperate to keep the swimming pool, but the funding was being pulled from it. And then we needed to get a fire truck on site. It was a rural school. Yeah. And then I was just talking to the fire service, and I mentioned the dynamics of the school, just to give them some background. Because I was really going to ask them about, do I need to put a driveway in for the truck to get around the back of the new buildings? And then, because I gave them the context, and they said to me, well, honestly, we need the swimming pool. Because it's our only source of water in this area. And if we say to the council, you have to keep the swimming pool, the Ministry of Education will keep the swimming pool.
And you could not have predicted that.
No idea. I did not know that.
Yeah.
You know, but I just shared this. I was just giving them like the little 10-second rundown on the school context that they needed to be aware of, and that was the first thing that came out of that firefighter's mouth. You know, so this is.
And you go, boom, problem solved.
Correct. Yeah. But that was the first story I opened up with, and then I talked to them about, you know, as an architect, what I really need to understand is the mechanics for where do fire trucks go, what do fire trucks need, how do you what's unique to the site that might be helpful in terms of other things for the fire truck, you know, because I hadn't ever thought about the source of water, you know. So that was just like my first 5 minutes was just on that. And then I showed them some site plans, showing them where we plan to put the driveway versus where the fire service to put the driveway, just walked them through that. And I did 4 or 5 other things of that nature, but always started with like a kitschy, cheeky image of something.
Yeah.
As a way to just help people get through the conversation. And then afterwards, like, you know, you do the any questions thing and everyone's hands shot up.
That must be.
And I was like, holy crap, you guys are actually listening to this. And then they started asking questions, and then the coordinator told me where to get out of the room, so we got out of the room, and then I'm just standing in this foyer, like, you know, with about 20 people just answering all these random questions that they have. And I'm like, have you guys never been talked to before by an architect? Like, or have you never talked to one before? Or have you not been respected by one before? That's probably what's happened. And so there's a lot of things going on there. which was a real opener.
Yeah, and you can really tell when people are very interested in what they're talking about. Like just an example from uni, and you might have felt this as well. I don't know if you had the same course, but the one under Michael Milojevic, it's his history course.
Oh
but
no, I didn't get that one because I ended up having to pick between that and I think Hayden Willie and the other guy had an acoustic one. And I was really fascinated by the acoustic side of things. I couldn't make both work.
Well, you still got the course that you were really fascinated
I did,
by.
yeah.
And just sitting in Michael's class, it's like he puts up an image or a block of text, and then he can go on and on about, the history of everything, essentially. Yes. And what really comes to mind immediately is that he really loves what he's talking about. Yeah. And it's just like, if I can get a tenth of that in some portion of my life, or surround myself with people who are like that, everything would just be so much richer.
Yeah.
It would be more authentic in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Rajan.
No, thank you.
This is wonderful.